Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Robot voice tonight. Joined once again by the 5-foot wonder of the world, Jill Simonello from Chicago. We have Ed Kim with us tonight, the president of AutoPacifica. We are all having a good time behind the scenes, so sorry. We're a little worried. We're actively getting our beverages lined up. So we have a plan for you tonight that doesn't include just monologue, talking.
And I'm starting with hot chocolate, so you know.
Yes, I have apple juice as well, so I am ready to go.
No, this really is hot chocolate. I do have the wine over here, but this really is the hot chocolate.
Yeah, well, I'm starting with a LaCroix.
Oh,
but I've also got my beer here as well, so I'm set.
You can tell this is a very professional live stream. We wear suits and ties, and we say things correctly. But no, we wanted to hop in to some of the topics going on. Lots of going on in the automotive industry currently, and I got to give some shout out to Ukraine. Hopefully, those residents are doing okay tonight. That's quite the situation. And it actually kind of, look at that, segues right into the talk about gas prices, because that's going to go up, right? Market uncertainty means gas prices go up. It's a commodity-based market. But we have Ed on to talk about a study he's got done with some gas prices. But Jill spearheaded this whole thing. And so the first time in live stream history, I'm going to shut up. And
wait, what?
I know.
That never happens.
I'm going to mark it on the calendar. That is
I know. I'm like, let me get my phone so that I can maybe I should take a picture and commemorate the moment.
Things have changed, Ed. She a couple weeks ago said I was right about something.
No, I never did that. I didn't say that. Did you record it?
You know what? I believe it is. I'll look for that.
If you didn't record it, it didn't happen. No, so I wanted to bring Ed on because AutoPacific did a really interesting study. I guess you would say it's research study, looking at gas prices and how gas prices affect what people are buying in the market. And the assumption is, gas prices are going up. I've got to downsize and buy a Prius, or gas prices are going down. Yes, I can buy my Escalade. But I just thought it was really interesting because the study that you guys did basically says, contraire mon frere, that is not the case. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if you could dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So AutoPacific does, we do something called the fuel price impact study. And we have an online panel, and we ask them the same questions every 2 months. We've actually been doing this for about 15 years. So we have a lot of data that goes back many, many years. And what we ask these respondents is, what are you paying for gas? That's the most basic question. But then we ask them a bunch of other questions about gas price related issues. Things like, do you expect to be paying more for gas a year from now than you are today? If gas prices went way up, would you change the type of vehicle you drive? These sorts of questions. And our latest fuel price impacts survey, we feel that last month in January, and over the last few months, obviously, we've all been feeling the sting of rising gas prices, and obviously so have our respondents. So the data that we got back was really rather interesting. Jill, like you said, intuitively, one would think, okay, gas prices are rising. I'm ditching my Suburban. I'm getting a Prius now. Or, when gas prices drop, the opposite might happen. But the data is really showing us something kind of different, which is that the majority of consumers are saying that no matter what gas prices get to, they're not going to change the type of vehicle they drive. They, in fact, I think I got the number right here. I think it's almost 75% of our sample say that they would not change the type of vehicle they drive, no matter what happens with gas prices. And that's kind of surprising when you really think about it, because it's like, well, gas prices are expensive. Your Suburban uses a lot of fuel. Don't you want to get better gas mileage and move down into a smaller vehicle? And the answer is pretty clearly, for most people, no. people are going to, people by and large basically will grumble a lot. They'll complain a lot about gas prices, but will they actually make the move into a smaller vehicle? Well, not really. And this is pretty interesting. One of the interesting data points that comes out of this study is that we've had a lot of improvements in fuel economy in general over the last 10 years. Back, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, if you had an SUV, that SUV was probably getting you about 12, 13 miles a gallon. It's not really the case anymore. What we found, one of the most interesting things we found is this. 10 years ago, in the same study, our respondents reported that they were getting an average of 24 miles a gallon in whatever vehicle they were driving. It all came out to an average of 24 miles a gallon. Well, think about the types of vehicles people were driving 10 years ago. 10 years ago, there were a lot more passenger cars on the roads and a lot fewer trucks and SUVs. People were getting 24 miles a gallon. Now, fast forward to now, and the market is overwhelmingly in favor of light truck products. Mostly SUVs and a lot of pickups and a lot fewer passenger cars, yet people are still reporting that they're getting 24 miles a gallon. So what we've seen over the last 10 years or so is that technology has enabled people to drive the kinds of vehicles that they really want to drive. They don't have to get out of the vehicle that they want in order to get fuel economy that they can live with. So it's kind of what we're seeing in the data here. People are, understandably miffed about paying more at the pump, but the technology improvements that we've seen are allowing them to stay in the type of vehicle that they really want to drive, and people want to drive SUVs and trucks.
Yeah, well, so I mean, the other interesting thing about this study is you did say that there was a tipping point. There is a point at which people said that they would consider making the switch. And I'm not looking at the story right now, but I feel like it was like $4.44 or something like that.
Yeah, basically, in our study, it was let's see, only 23% of our sample said that higher fuel prices would cause them to change the type of vehicle they buy. So of that subset of the larger sample, let me see, I got the data right here. They would have to pay. Where did that go? Sorry, bear with me. I thought I had all my.
What? It's that beer you've been drinking.
I know. I'm already losing. I'm already drunk here. Shoot, where did that go?
Lightweight.
Yeah, you need to come and join us more often. Apparently, we've got to build up our tolerance.
I found it. All right. So, of those people who said that higher fuel prices would make them change the type of vehicle they drive, and keep in mind that's only 23% of our sample, so less than a quarter. Gas prices would have to reach at least $1.12 more per gallon than they paid at the time of their survey. Now, of course, the situation in Ukraine, it's pretty much a guarantee at this point now. Yes, we are going to see higher gas prices, and it's going to be significant. So the next time we run this survey, which will be next month, because we do this bi-monthly, it'll be really, really interesting to see. If anything has changed in consumer attitudes towards fuel prices. I think we'll probably add in some questions for next month, regarding this whole Ukraine situation, and to see how much that plays into things. But people would have to pay, even among those people who would change the type of vehicle that they drive due to higher prices. I mean, they'd have to pay significantly more, or gas prices would have to get significantly higher before they make that decision to do so.
Right. So we should do a roll call actually, and have people comment what they're paying for gas right now. Because I feel like we're the high threes right now, just for like low grade gas. But if I wanted premium, I'd be over 4, and that's in the city of Chicago. Right. And Ed is in the LA area. Do you know what you're paying right now?
I'm laughing because, I live in the LA area. I live in a suburb of LA called Long Beach, and 87 octane, just regular fuel is about $4.59 around here. However, this past weekend I was in LA proper, in Hollywood, and it was I'd say the average that I saw was about $5.50 in LA proper.
Maybe holy snarky, man!
Oh my god!
I know. I mean, because we've gotten close to 5 occasionally in Chicago, but usually we kind of hover up like above and below the 4 mark. My husband and I typically try and go out to the suburbs to get gas because it's usually 50 cents to $1 cheaper out there. Right. But I mean, it's Tim, what are you paying? Do you know?
Oh, it's like $3.50 or something like that. I actually I kind of piss people off because I don't really pay much attention to gas prices, because for me the truck is a work tool.
Yeah, no, I charge it back to my business, so it's like I'm with you.
Yeah, when I do the mile per gallon test and stuff like that, I mean, it was funny. So I did a mile per gallon test recently on the Tundra, and people made a comment that I had the same test on Power Boost the year before, and gas was $1 cheaper because actually we're looking at the video, as the roll head playing, filling up the tank, which is, I got to tell you what, there's some sharp cookies in this channel. Like they will spot out any little detail in video. Like it's really impressive. And I was like, well, so the difference was $20. And I was like, well, inflation is basically $20 right now anyways. So, I mean, gas prices are up and truck was up price wise. And I mean, so it didn't really bother me, but I could see if you were driving every day for a long distance for work, I could see it making a difference. I was curious about it. When you do your survey results, is it geographical? Do you put people in like sections of the country? Is it change?
It's a nationwide survey, so it's spread out across the country. Honestly, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what where it breaks out in terms of the population spread, but it is a nationwide sample.
I do find it funny, or not funny. I find it interesting online when you get on Facebook groups like that. I mean, there are people that really have a hard time with gas prices raising. And I find it to be kind of geographical in that, California has absurd prices for numerous reasons, taxes and all sorts of that going on. But I mean, the cost of living in California is also up as well. So it kind of makes sense to me. You pay more for gas, pay more for everything in California. And so it's just kind of interesting how that's, I find it geographically, it's different. And it really is different for, I think age group makes a difference too. So my friend is 75 and he will tell me every last 3 Phillips, what he paid for price of gas. And I'm like, I have no.
Who's not that age just the same.
Yeah, and so I find I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, but it just seems like it's a really interesting conversation. I mean, in my situation, this is kind of it makes sense to me, right? So if you look at I did I don't know, 7-8 years ago, I did a story on this. If you look at what you're changing, like in gas prices, right? So let's say you fill up your tank twice a month or something like that, right? So if gas prices go up $1, so you're spending $30 more per fill up, so you're spending $60 more a month. Yeah. Well, that doesn't equal a payment on anything. Maybe a skateboard, right? I mean, so if you go to buy a cheap used car, I mean, your net savings is still not there.
That's 2 weeks worth of Starbucks. You'd have to give up 2 weeks of Starbucks.
Yeah. It sounds like
you don't care.
It sounds like a Starbucks habit.
you that in terms of whiskey, I'd be all about it. But
that's a bottle of whiskey.
Well, see, that's the difference. No, I don't know. It's because to me, it comes down to the aspect of like, okay, let's say gas goes up to $4, $5 a gallon, right? So if you look at like the new sedans and new trucks, right? So if you do a V6 sedan Camry, gets 22 city, 31 highway. I know that because I just looked it up. A sedan, I don't know that number on top of my head, obviously. But if you look at that versus like the new, what my favorite engine, the Duramax from Chevy, that thing can get 29, 30 miles per gallon in the highway and 22 city. So it gets the same fuel economy or better versus a V6 Camry. So if you go buy the V6 Camry, which, oh, by the way, costs $30-some thousand, and your payment's probably going to be $400 a month, your still net savings is just, it doesn't compute on paper. I guess that's my point.
Tim, that's a very that's exactly that's exactly our observation as well. It's like your actual savings by choosing, say, this V6 Camry over a big, much bigger and much more capable diesel truck. The savings are negligible or even non-existent. The last time that we had a giant fuel price swing, was around the 2009-2010 timeframe, and that situation was a little different from now, in the sense that we were also dealing with a recession at the time. The housing market was imploding, so there were other factors at play. But at that time, we actually did see quite a bit of people abandoning their trucks and SUVs and getting back into sedans. But what we also found was, in talking to a lot of these consumers, was when they actually, after the fact, did the math, they realized, God, what have I done here? It's like, I still, I traded in this SUV that I had some equity in because it was a, 4-year-old SUV, and now I'm in, now I'm in this sedan, for the next 5 years because I just started this car loan, and so I've got this payment still, and I'm, now I'm further in debt than I was earlier, and for what? What have I really accomplished here? And it's like, a lot of people who did the math after the fact, found that maybe they should have done the math before the fact. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've had discussions with our colleagues about this, and they all scream at me to say that truck market's going to collapse as soon as gas gets to $5 a gallon. And I'm like, well, unless a Camry can pull a 20-foot, 20,000-pound trailer, which I don't believe it can with the fifth wheel hookup. Although I do see some photos on Facebook where people have
tried
sort of redneck done that and tried that.
Yeah.
And all that can do, I mean, it's because it's this thing. It's like, so I have a family of 4, right? And I could get in a sedan, but then we want to carry stuff. We want to travel. Well, I mean, I could make it work, but I'd much rather sit up higher and be in a Tahoe or a Yukon or something, right? Or I'd much rather be in a full-size truck because I have the bed. We can just throw a bunch of stuff in the back of the bed and haul whatever we want. Go on vacation. It's never like, will it fit? Can we get an extension if we had bag but on roof racks on top? No. I got a bed. Just throw the shit in there. It's great.
So here's the interesting thing that I think that the situation that we're in right now, where I think gas prices could have an effect. So we've basically gone 2 years where people have not been able to buy a car because of supply chain shortages, things burning in the middle of the ocean, trying to bring cars here, things going on in the Ukraine, gas prices going up. So like people haven't been able to buy a car. Now the gas prices are going up. When people are ready to buy a car again, I'm wondering if instead of like the pickup truck buyers, I think that's never going to change because for the most part, unless they're just choosing it as a like a lifestyle vehicle, that may change. But what I think is going to happen, especially in the SUV market, is I think that you will see people not necessarily opting to downsize, but I could see the rise of plug-in hybrids. Like this could be the thing that makes plug-in hybrids more viable because you don't have to plug it in, but you'll get better fuel economy if you do, and you'll be fighting your gas at fighting the gas prices. But like they're coming out with some really good plug-in hybrids these days. The Toyota RAV4 Prime, I think I saw somebody in the comments mentioning it. It is a darn nice vehicle. It is probably one of my favorite SUVs right now. So I'm wondering if a rise in gas prices and the fact that so many people are going to be wanting to buy a car probably in the next 6 months, I wonder if that's going to change how people buy.
Well, that is an interesting point. And I think that in the coming years, we're going to see a pretty big rise in sales of electrified vehicles. And when I say electrified, I'm not limiting that to EVs, but I mean, things like plug-in hybrids, hybrids, hybrids that don't plug in, hybrids that do plug in, electric vehicles. We're going to see a pretty sharp rise, in electrification in general. we do have a sales forecast, and actually we're forecasting the biggest growth in terms of electrified powertrains from just regular hybrids. Toyota, which is obviously one of the biggest volume automakers in the U.S. They are, as you know, going very, very aggressively hybrid. They will at some point in the not too distant future offer hybrid versions of pretty much every vehicle that they have in the lineup, and they've got literally decades now of experience doing hybrids. So arguably they do hybrids better than anyone else does, and they're really starting to leverage that now. So I was not that long ago in a Toyota Sienna, which comes standard with a hybrid powertrain now. The last generation, it was just a gasoline V6. Now it's a standard hybrid that literally gets double the gas mileage of the prior one with no disadvantages. I mean, it still operates the same way as your regular gasoline V6 did. You don't plug it in. You don't have range anxiety. It just operates like a regular internal combustion engine vehicle. But the only difference is you're using half the fuel. I mean, what's not to like, right? I mean, that's
well, there is a little bit of a power decrease, I think, in the Sienna.
There is.
But I didn't think it was. I mean, it's a minivan.
It is. You're not buying a minivan to get crazy at the track or anything like that, or do stoplight drags. So generally, minivans actually have some of the lowest. The insurance companies say that minivans have like the lowest loss rates because people tend to drive them very carefully because they're carrying precious cargo on board and all that. So I actually when I had that Sienna hybrid, we had family in from out of town, so I was constantly lugging around 7 people all weekend in that thing. And because I had so many people on board, it's not like I was trying to drive very fast anyways. I know it felt perfectly adequate, even with 7 adults on board. So it gets double the gas mileage of the last one, and that's very compelling. So to your point, Joe, yes, plug-in hybrids. We are also forecasting significant growth in plug-in hybrids in the coming years. I do think that plug-in hybrids will be a significant bridge between the current status quo and a future, an eventual all-electric future. I don't think it's going to happen as fast as some are saying it's going to happen, but eventually we'll get there, and the plug-in hybrids will be an important bridge for that. So
this begs the question: were you surprised when the hybrid Tundra came out and the fuel economy was, well, rather poor?
I'm like, not stellar.
I mean, a $3,400 option to get, what did we say, 2 miles per gallon better, maybe, in combined, I think it was. I mean, the math was up for that.
Yeah, it's not, clearly I think the way I kind of prefer to look at that is you're getting more capability without a fuel economy penalty, as opposed to let's in the traditional sense, hybrid is meant to get you much greater fuel economy than a gasoline only powertrain. In the case of the Tundra, the way I kind of like to think of it is you're getting so much more power and torque, but you're not paying a price for that at the pump. Like in a different example, let's say you've got a Chevy truck. The 6.2 is going to get worse fuel economy than the 5.3. But in the case of the Tundra, the more powerful engine doesn't cost you at the pump. So when you look at it that way, I actually think it's a pretty compelling option. I mean, you're getting a lot of extra capability, and you're not paying more at the pump for it, which is usually what happens when you get the more powerful and more capable powertrain option in a truck.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out I had the non-hybrid version of the Tundra right before the Chicago Auto Show, which again, I'm going to point out my stellar parallel parking on my street. I just have to point that out again. My abilities, I've got mad skills, but I actually liked the hybrid engine better. I thought that the regular straight V6 was a little bit sluggish, especially coming up off of a stop. And so in addition to, getting some benefits for the fuel savings, it's just faster. I liked it a lot better. I think I text messaged Tim after I was driving and I was like, this engine sucks. But that's the the engine that Tim has. But I didn't like it, especially not in Chicago.
Thanks for that, Jill.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, I'm trying to
all the feels.
I'm trying to share the photo of your parallel parking job. Let me see.
Oh yeah.
I haven't. All right, maybe So I'm a little technology limited sometimes, and maybe that's an option I don't know how to do.
To share the photo or find the photo?
I did know how to. I can share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me.
Yeah, because I'm just everybody needs to see it because I really am super proud of it.
No, I'm gonna
because I've mentioned it now like 20 times.
All right, boom! Oh, I did it.
Look at that.
I literally and this was actually I did that at night and didn't realize I knew how close everything was, but I got out the next day and I was getting ready to leave and I'm like, damn, I did a good job. Because I was the last one in and the first one out. Thankfully the first one out. So nobody hit me and I didn't hit them. So but yeah, I was super proud of that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Now everybody's seen it.
Yeah, so I have the challenge to go to Chicago and then parallel park in Jill's spot, which I will be doing soon, and I don't know if we'll have video of that or not. I'm sure Jill will TikTok the hell out of it. So.
there will be photos and videos somewhere.
When that happens, will there be a dibs involved?
It depends on if there's snow. So for those of you who are not from Chicago has this crazy tradition. I think it might have even started in like Philadelphia or Boston. I don't think it started in Chicago, but it's called dibs. And so the idea is public street. I don't own the street in front of my house. But if I've parked on the street and I take the time to shovel out my spot, and I leave my spot and I want my spot to be there when I get back, because, I've shoveled out the spot. So surely somebody else is going to want it. People in Chicago have this habit of putting trash or weird objects in the spot that they have shoveled out so that it will still be there when they get back. I mean, there's like statues of Jesus, on the snow. There's like literal trash bags. There's little kitty cars that they put out there. If you're on Instagram, there's this great Instagram account. It's called @ChicagoDibs, and you can follow it, and it'll show you some of the crazy things people actually put in their spots to save it. The statue of Jesus was, I have to say, my favorite. I mean, who's gonna move Jesus and park in that spot? I mean, I don't know, but yeah. So unless it's snowing, there is no dibs involved. And actually, I will say, my husband and I do not participate in dibs. We happily dig out the spots and then dig out another one. So,
bless your hearts.
Wow, that was informative, folks. And after this next commercial break, be right back.
Well, I mean, since we're on Chicago, Justin wants to know what the best pizza place is in Chicago. So I gotta share that. Pequod's. It's not Giordano's. It's not Lou Malnati's. It's Pequod's.
I know.
How do you spell that?
Pequods, like apostrophe S. Pequod's.
Oh, okay.
And there's one in Lincoln Park in Chicago, and then I believe there's one out in Morton Grove in the suburbs, but there's only two. So it's not a tourist trap, and if you don't know, you don't know. So I have just shared with you a treasured Chicago secret. You should feel very privileged. If you want to avoid the tourist trap and you want the best pizza in Chicago, it's Pequod's.
I feel like that's listed in the Urban Dictionary for a different word definition. All right, moving along.
Next topic, because I'm not going to talk about that, Urban Dictionary.
I think the plug-in hybrid thing is an interesting discussion. I want to get back to that. So I was recently in Florida, enjoying some sunshine and enjoying all that kind of stuff going down there. I was in my. This is funny. I was in my dad's retirement village. I'm sorry, the Tampa Bay Golf and Country Club Resort.
Come on, it's an adult lifestyle community.
That's what he says it is. Anyway, 55 and older. And we're in this
55 or better, by the way. Let's get the terminology right. 55 or better.
Yeah, restaurant, golf course, big pool area. And I saw so many Lincolns I didn't know existed. And I saw Cadillacs because it's a whole different demographic, right? It's like these, and there was guys in this community with lifted F-350s, and I'm not talking like lifted a couple feet. No, they were like 6-8 inch lifts on these things.
How do they get in?
Well, I know, and I'm like, there's bulldozers, and there's this guy who was at a crew cab. I think it was a Ram Cummins crew cab, 8-foot bed, parking and barely fitting in his little driveway. And so and then there's a bunch of EVs and a bunch of actually a lot of Hyundai and Kias as well, because cheaper price. Hyundai's cheaper price, better warranty, which I thought was kind of funny because you're already like at that age. Why do you care about warranty? You're not gonna outlive your warranty at that point. Anyways,
careful.
So I was like, it was one of those situations where, like, when I go to California, I see different vehicles. When I go to Chicago, I see different vehicles, right? So, you go to Michigan, right? You think Michigan, you think Lincoln's like the leading sales luxury leader in the country because everybody's in an employee plan. That's why everybody's going to buy an employee plan. So I just find it that's why I was asking about geographical, because I find it fascinating. In Florida, I saw a bunch of Teslas, right? Nobody's going to have a Tesla. But I saw, some trucks, and I saw some Jeeps, just a whole different collection of vehicles. And so I find it fascinating when we get around parts of the country. I've always thought that EVs do well in the Sun Belt. I think it's a great Sun Belt kind of a vehicle because you're going to be okay plugging outside in the wintertime. It's 80 degrees, not a big deal. You don't have to deal with those situations. And so my mother, I bring this up with plugging it because my mother-in-law, or my stepmom actually, they bought a Cadillac ST6 and they wanted a plug-in version of that because they take road trip to Michigan every summer. They do the snowbird, right? To Michigan, Florida, back and forth. But most time in Florida, they could drive electric only because their driving is, the car sits in the garage a couple days a week. It doesn't really go anywhere, right? So that was a question like I have for you as well. It's like, I was talking to her about this. It's like, why did we go from gas to full EV? Right? It's like we've skipped the step of like getting people, because every time it's like we went from horses to a wagon with multiple. Then we went to a covered wagon with 4 horses up front, or 4 cows up front, whatever. We've made every time in history we've made this transportation wise. We've gone this little right. But this is the first time in history I've ever seen, and people have said with the Tundra, like, where is the plug-in hybrid version of a full-size truck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great and very, very very astute point you're bringing up. I guess my answer to that would be, automakers have to. Electric vehicles are at current, they're very high cost and low margin programs. The batteries still remain tremendously expensive and all that stuff. So in order for an automaker's electric vehicle program to pencil out from a business case perspective, in many, many cases they really need global volume, and markets like China, markets like the European Union, these are very, very large, major automotive markets. Actually, China is the world's biggest auto market, and the governments in both those areas are pushing very, very hard on full electrification. For the automakers to be able to make a business case for this, they got to get the Americans on board too. So that's one of the major reasons why we've been seeing such a big push from the automakers on EVs in this U.S. market, even though there's really ultimately pretty modest demand for EVs on a national basis. Along the coast, obviously there's more demand, but when you look at the market, the U.S. market on a national basis, consumer demand for full EVs is still pretty modest. In fact, the fuel price impact study that we were just talking about, right now, or in January, consumer intention for electric vehicles was at 11%, which means that 89% of our panel saying they're not going to buy an electric car for the next vehicle. So, the vast majority of people, they're not ready for that yet. But the automakers are still really trying to push it onto this market, because in order to make these very costly investments pencil for them, they need U.S. market volume to make it work. So, so we're in a situation now where we have both federal and state governments pushing very hard on EVs, but the automakers as well, especially because China and the EU have decided we're going all electric. We're we're to your point, Joe, we're kind of skipping the plug-in hybrid thing. We're going all electric. It's this, big, massive sea change. Well, we're getting kind of caught up in that riptide, so to speak, as well, because in order for the automakers to be able to do that, they need us to get on board as well.
Well, and somebody pointed out in the comments, and I think that it was John McGarger pointed out, but isn't the infrastructure to support EV first? And so I feel like we have a little bit of a chicken and egg situation going on. It's like automakers are pushing the EVs, yet people don't want to buy EVs because the charging infrastructure isn't there. And I know that, and I say this, if you're going to buy an EV, you should have a home charger, so you shouldn't depend on public charging. But here's the thing. My parents live in Indianapolis, so I am regularly driving 200 miles from Chicago to Indianapolis, and most EVs range is between 200 and 250 miles on a perfect sunny day, without running, the air conditioning or the heat, and using your heated seats, and, driving 55 miles an hour. That's when you're going to get 250 miles of range. So I could not make it from Chicago to Indianapolis in an electric vehicle without a supercharger. Now, I went through and I downloaded all the stupid apps from Electrify America and Plug In and Plug Share and, EV Go. And I downloaded them all to see, like, if there was a supercharger that's not Tesla from, Chicago to Indianapolis. And I see a lot of charging stations in Lafayette, Indiana, but I don't think any of them are the ultra fast, like 350 kilowatt, whatever. So for me, and I think for a lot of people, who are listening and, who are contemplating an EV purchase as like maybe their primary vehicle, that is the stopping point. Like, the government has to get the infrastructure built. And by the way, I think automakers should be contributing to that. You've got to get these ultra fast chargers built along the major highways before people will say, I feel comfortable enough, because it's not range anxiety in my mind that's the problem. Like, if you can go 200 miles, but like you can stop on, at the Starbucks. Yep, Starbucks. I'm saying it again. If you can stop at Starbucks and get your almond milk sugar cookie latte, and pick up your latte and charge up your vehicle while you're doing it, then it makes it so much easier, you don't have to worry about range anxiety. You can go 150 miles, get your coffee, and then, be on your way and get to your destination. So I think infrastructure is the big problem, and people will not buy an EV until the infrastructure is there.
I could not agree more, Jill. I mean, infrastructure to me is perhaps the biggest limiting factor right now in terms of mainstream EV adoption. I know that, let me back up to an earlier point you were talking about regarding charging at home. Okay, charging at home works if you happen to own your own detached single family home. But 35% of households do not own their own detached single family home. They live in apartments or condos, or maybe they're renting a house or something, but can't install a charger there. They park on the street. These people, 35% of the country, they don't have the option of charging at home, so they have to rely on on something else, on public charging infrastructure. And that public charging infrastructure is, at this point in time, woefully inadequate relative to the goals that the federal government has laid out in terms of, EV adoption in this country. We've got to get the infrastructure in place because, right now, we're nowhere near being able to support all that. But building that infrastructure, oh my God, that's going to be that is going to be so difficult. Not defending the Chinese government's way of doing things by any means, but it's an authoritarian, very top-down, type of a political system there. The premier of China says, do this, make it happen, and it just happens. Well, it's not quite that simple here. I mean, just think about, all the permits and, meetings with city council and whatever to, install one charger in a parking lot, and then try to imagine, scaling that across the entire country. I mean, this is going to take some time, unfortunately. I think that's, I mentioned earlier that, I think that EV adoption is going to take longer than a lot of people think. And it's specifically because of what you're saying, Jill. The infrastructure is so far from being ready. And I mean, to upgrade our electrical grid, all over the country to be able to support all this infrastructure that needs to go into place to support this wave of EVs that eventually is supposed to happen. I mean, how long is that going to take?
Yeah,
it's going to take a long, long time.
There was places in Mississippi that still didn't have phone service. So I am, I'm kind of bored of the EV talk because it always bores me. But I got to say something. Cybertruck is saying that about Teslas and everything. Tesla's great and Tesla's awesome, all that kind of stuff. I talked to my friend Kyle Connor, who was on the live stream last week. He's gonna let me borrow a Tesla Model 3. He actually happens to own. I'm gonna drive for the week here in Nebraska when I get down to his place. I'm gonna go drive a Rivian. I'm gonna do that stuff. My overarching problem with EVs is not that they're not the future. I understand we're gonna plug something in, whatever. It's just two things. Number one, they're boring to drive. I'm sorry. I know that the plaid version is super fast. It's awesome. People love it. I find it to be numb. The other thing, though, I find is that, I think back to your story point, is that with the raising improvements in vehicle hybrid technology vehicles, right? So like the Sienna. So I mean, the Sienna. My uncle just bought one. It gets 42 miles per gallon when he's driving around.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's a vehicle that big and with the capability to carry that many people. Yeah. Right.
So what's the incentive for him to go full EV when he's getting 42 miles per gallon? And I mean, I love the diesel. I love the 3-liter diesel. People know I'm a big fan of that. The seats can go elsewhere. If when I buy a Chevy, I'm gonna take the damn seats off, throw them in a junkyard, buy another set of seats. But that powertrain, I've literally hammered it across Nebraska down to Kansas, and I've gotten 29 miles per gallon. Like, Tim, I don't have the incentive to say.
You're talking about the 3-liter.
The 3-liter diesel, the 1500.
God, I love that engine. It's actually one of my favorite engines on the market. Period.
Yeah, and so that's my debate. It's like, okay, if I can get a 3-liter diesel, it gets 29 miles per gallon. If I can get a power boost up in 50, it gets 24 miles per gallon. I mean, you used to tell truck guys all the time, like, if I gave you, if my truck got 14 miles per gallon, man, I'm hot shit. Wow, that's impressive, And now it's like 24, and you're like, you are full. I tell people in my area, I go to the bar, it's 24 miles a gallon. I'm like, this loony bin over here needs to get the hell out of here, right? I mean, that's ridiculous, right? In today's market. And so what I don't understand is where is going to be that demand, and we're going to spend billions to get to this point when consumers are going, I'm
well,
25.
Yeah, Tim, this is absolutely a case of regulatory push as opposed to consumer pull. Consumers, like I said, our own data show that 89% of our panel does not intend to get an EV next time. So it's not like there's overwhelming consumer demand for EVs. Rather, there's a regulatory push for electrification, and so this is technology that's being pushed onto the marketplace as opposed to consumers pulling it into the marketplace. So,
and I would say that 89% of automotive journalists approve the adoption of EVs, and 11% are on the fence.
Exactly. That would be. I don't know where. I guess I point that way.
Right. I mean, your study earlier said 89%. 11% were interested. 89% said they weren't really going to do it. I'm going to tell you, people always, so the question came up from somebody who says, why is every live stream turned to EVs? Guys, I'm going to tell you straight up. Every day I get an email from an automaker about their EVs.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
And it's not just one. It's more like 10.
And so I'm like, man, I'm like, I don't have a huge desire to talk about it. The team and I, basically they ignore me when I talk about it because I'm sick of running articles on it, but it's all there is to talk about. I mean, I hate to say it, but the whole marketplace is in the media, and I'm part of the media, and I'm part of the problem or the solution, whatever the case is going to be. But I mean, we are pushing. We're not. I don't feel like we're pushing EVs, but we are reporting on it because people keep talking about it. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we could switch to talking about the Bronco Raptor, which the pricing was announced, I believe, yesterday. Or they didn't even really announce the pricing. Ford is really sneaky. What they do is they're a little bit sneaky. They don't actually send out press releases on this stuff. They just, flip a switch and the configurator goes live, and somebody accidentally finds it. And they're like, wait a minute, the pricing for the Raptor is here. So they released the pricing for the Bronco Raptor, and I forget what the base price is. I feel like it's like $69,999 or something like that. But it tops out at like $82,000.
Yeah. I know somebody who has a lot to say about a Bronco. I do. Okay. And here's Dave with All Nation.
How did I get here?
I feel like we need to start singing the Brady Bunch theme song.
Right. Hey, wait. I have to do something. My studio's not unless I've got my light. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm happy now. I'm playing. What's going on, guys?
The marketplace interesting though. Think about this. We have the Prius thing, right? Vehicle, and then we have Raptors, right? And so from a marketplace standpoint, people are going, oh my gosh, I have to have a Tesla, right? So people, big Tesla fans, and fair enough. I mean, Tesla did a great job of setting the marketplace. But we have Teslas, we have F-350s, we have Tremor F-150 we don't have the money for the Raptor. We have Raptors, we have Bronco Raptors, we have the Bronco Everglades swampy thing. Yeah. I had to fight with my team kept wanting to call it the swamp thing, and I was like, come on, guys. We gotta,
Tim, that's the billboard, man. It's got the billboard on the side of it.
I like that. It's literally a swamp. A swamp Bronco.
Can we talk about a little bit of an irony here? This is the Everglades model. The Everglades model.
Yeah.
What color would you make special on an Everglades model?
Green.
Would it be desert sand?
No. Well, they're going for that overland guy though, Jill.
Oh yeah, with their swamp thing, they're going for the overlanding dude in desert sand.
Between Jeep now and Ford, they're battling over any landmark they can now name a vehicle after.
That's a great point. Somebody asked me the other day, like, where is the what's that park in Wyoming? How am I missing it? It's right there. No. The Yellowstone.
Oh, Yellowstone.
So we did a story on this because Jimmy's a huge
Yellowstone
TV show watcher. Yeah, the TV show kind of guy. And so it's like Yellowstone edition. I'm like, right? Where's the Yellowstone edition at this point? Like, Ram's got to do it, right? Because Ram does special editions and everything.
They got it.
They do.
And Jimmy said he wants to take credit for that if they do it.
Yeah, take credit for a lot of things. All right, Dave, where are you at with this? Would you sell your Bronco if gas got to $5 a gallon?
Not really. It's actually for what it is. It's actually not that bad. I mean, I can get 16 around town if I'm gentle with it, which for that style vehicle.
I think I was getting 8. I'm like, what?
I'm not gonna. Well, Jill, I have a couple complaints because you said they were noisy too, and I have a soft top and it's quiet as a kitten.
Oh my gosh. Could you? But I mean, it was no way.
We're gonna have a debate on that, Jill, at some point, because I recorded audio and mine doesn't sound near as what yours does. But
somebody must have put the top on wrong, is all I have to say, because that was just the most hideous driving experience I've ever had. But I digress.
But Tim, I have a Gladiator and I have a Bronco, and this weekend we recorded a video, kind of A and
vehicles.
Yeah, A and B in both of the vehicles, and obviously the Gladiator gets a little better fuel economy, but not by much. But for where I live in Middle Tennessee, it's about a practical vehicle. I have my truckish vehicle now that's my fun toy. I have the soft top Bronco that's kind of a fun toy, and my commute is like 4 miles. Like, so for me, I'm not the average guy to ask that. Now, if there's people that, maybe live in the city, like where Jill's at, I'm pretty sure they're going to say, no, I don't want that vehicle.
Well, but so here's the thing. In the city, here's what you can do. You don't drive it.
Right.
Because, I mean, I don't need a car. Unless I'm going out to the suburbs, like I can get anywhere I need to be with a bus that's a block away, a train station that's, an L station that's, 10 blocks away. Like it's a 2-minute walk to the bus stop. It's a 10-minute walk to the L station. Like I can get anywhere I need to be in the city of Chicago without touching a car. So, I mean, somebody in the city, in a way, being in a city like Chicago with public transportation, it makes even more sense to have one of those gas guzzling vehicles, because you only drive it like when you want to and when you're, going to have fun with it.
Right. Yeah, I don't need a car either in a country. I mean, we still got horses that are legal to go down the road.
Well, this is a question for
Ed. Them, right?
Ed, do you see like these manufacturers going further apart? So going strictly EV and then just strictly gas guzzler, because we don't seem to have a middle ground for fuel economy anymore.
Well, I think with the way things are going, the intent on the part of most automakers is to get transitioned to full EV, I guess sometime over the next 10 years. And, along with that would come a lot of, very capable, very off-road capable EVs. I mean, Jeep's got several very off-road capable EVs that are coming in the near future. They've obviously committed and are, going down that road. And I think these vehicles will offer a ton of performance, a ton of capability. Stellantis, obviously the parent company of Jeep and Ram and all that.
The drug brand. Yep. Drugs. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ask your doctor if Stellantis is right for you.
It just can't. Who came up with that name?
I don't know. It really does sound like a drug. It really does. I think when I guess it kind of goes back to the Tesla Model S. The Model S the Model S showed the public once and for all that yes, an electric vehicle can be super high performance, super fun to drive. It doesn't going electric doesn't mean that you're driving some dorky science experiment. So there's been a lot of development in EVs. In that sense. I mean, shoot, we've got the Lightning, we've got the Ford Lightning now, which is very, very capable truck, great performance and great capability and all that. And frankly, we're going to start seeing a lot more of that in the coming years.
I was talking to some Tesla owners and other Tesla people, and it's funny. The people I know that buy Teslas, I hate to say percentages, right? Because we're always like, well, 90% of truck owners don't need a bed; they just need an SUV. I hate that stuff, right? So, but I would say talking to some Tesla owners, I think it's pretty clear that they bought it for performance and luxury, and maybe the environment was 3, 4, 5 in the list.
Oh, actually, Tim, our data 1,000% supports that. Environmental concern for the environment is actually a lesser concern for most Tesla buyers. It's really about the perception that Teslas are bleeding edge technology. They've got the coolest features. They've got technology that no one else has, and that includes not just the electric powertrain, but also, the infotainment and the various, self-driving features that don't actually work. But
you mean autopilot?
Yeah, autopilot, full self-driving, which is anything but. But really the key point here is that Tesla customers are really in it for the tech and the image. It's not about saving the environment for most of these owners.
Yeah, I was really surprised. My friend Jordan Golson, who's Two Guys in Traffic, he's got a YouTube channel. He's written for us a few times. Some videos up. He reached out to me in text messages, and he was asking me how many Ford F-150 Lightnings are at reservation at my local dealer. So, I live in outside of Scottsbluff. Scottsbluff's got a population of 20,000 people. The county has 100,000 people, so it's a really rural area. And so I messaged my dealer. I happen to know the sales manager pretty well. I play golf with his dad. He kicks my butt every time I play golf with him. But anyways, he has got 9 reserved in our area. And it rather surprised me. But, I think at the end of the day, like my neighbor was over last night. He's got a 2005 3/4 ton Chevy. And he was like, he goes, I tow a trailer twice a year. But he says most of the time I'm driving to work and back, and I could use a half-ton V6. He says it's not, for what my use case is, when I really sit down and do the pencil to paper and do the math, it makes sense. And I've said this many times. I would be fine. My lifestyle, the way I drive, 90% of the time, if I put a number on it, I'd be fine driving an EV. I mean, the golf course is like right there. Walmart's just past it. So there's my day. I'm like, so I mean, most of my time I'm right here doing work. I'm not, my commute, unlike Dave, is 4 miles. My commute is, let me go with 200 feet. So a little bit different situation going on there. So, I mean, I could do it. I just, my problem is for that variety of time, if I actually want to go to Cheyenne and go someplace that's 90 miles away in the wind, uphill, in the snow, walking the kids both ways, that kind of deal. It does take more effort to get there than I would, and EVs make me. I mean, there's no place to stop and charge on the way to Cheyenne. There's a lot of cows and open pasture ground and corn.
Well, Tim, Ford they are working on a EV Bronco, by the way. There's been a bunch of pictures sneak out about it. You can see them big orange cables under the vehicle, and they're about to take on Jeep in that market. But does with off-roading, because my big focus is with off-roading, that's a whole market. Jill, you were talking about the Everglades and stuff.
The desert sand Everglades.
Yes, the swamp monster in Moab. Yeah, but that community is the community that's super scared of this because they know the limitations of gas-powered vehicles. So you start throwing EVs out there, and I know Jeep did this whole promotional thing. Oh, look, we're putting chargers in Moab. Yeah, you put 2 chargers in there, and if you want 100, 200 EV vehicles, there's going to be a line around the arches there trying to charge their vehicle. But I think that they need to win. Like for truck guy seems to be a hobbyist on the weekends with trucks, and you need to win them over somehow EV wise of saying, hey, let's go hybrid. Like you guys were saying earlier, full size. Why are there no full size hybrids? Toyota, Tim, I don't know what you consider the Toyota. Is it a hybrid? Is that just for torque? What is that? But I think if they're smart, they go directly after the truck guy and don't play around with it, and don't do like Rivian and where you kind of like, well, we're kind of a truck, we're kind of a lifestyle vehicle, which is funny to me. Just say, look, man, the new Chevy coming out, hey, I would have brought the ZR2 package or whatever they're going to end up calling the Trail Boss. This is what we launch with. Is it a badass like your normal off-road vehicle? And maybe not, but it's going to get there, and just start pushing that button. And then the other people will come around, and construction people too. I'm on construction sites daily. EV is nowhere near ready for construction sites. And I know Ford is really pushing the contractor package. GM is really pushing that now. And I can tell you, I leave my vehicle idle probably 8 hours a day. Like, and I'm in extreme weather a lot of times. So I have to have either air conditioning or, yes, Jill, sorry.
No, I just I want to go into your idling thing. So there was actually a snowstorm in Vermont or somewhere, and where motorists got trapped on the road.
Oh,
And they were there for like 12 hours, 18 hours or whatever. And everybody's like, this is why we're not ready for EVs. EVs aren't ready for prime time. All of these cars are now bricked on the road. But here's the thing. Not a single EV ran out of a charge idling for 12 hours, keeping the heat on, having their heated seats on, because once the vehicle is warm, it takes less power to maintain. So they were finding like they still had like 10 or 15% charge, enough to get them to a charger. When it was all over, the streets were cleared, they could go home. So I just had to butt in and say,
sure. But in my industry, I have things I'm constantly charging. There is some need to it. I don't travel I can travel 300 or 400 miles a day easily. And then I'm still required to be on a job site trying to use all this battery power. And for me, I think I'm excited for it. Don't get me wrong. But for me, till you get nearly 400 miles per charge, it's not ready. And two, oh God, where'd my thought go?
Sorry, I completely derailed you.
No, you did. But that's okay. I just don't think for construction, I know they're pushing, oh, look, construction guy, you can plug your saw into this. Well, the trucks I see on construction sites are 5 to 10 years old. They're beat the crap out of them, and they bought them used. And we have a lot of Hispanic labor in my area, and they're not going out and buying brand new vehicles because they know they're going to just tear them up. So the idea of a $70,000 to $80,000 EV is not there. And then what do you do, Joe, with these when they're 5 years old and the batteries need reconditioned? Because I've noticed with Leaf, go price a Leaf right now. A 2-year-old Leaf is like nothing.
Okay, so the technology that was that Leaf was like that's basically antiquated at this point.
Sure.
And the technology that you have now, I feel like I was on a Toyota thing when they were announcing like their upcoming electrified solutions, whatever, and they're saying after 10 years, they're only expecting about a 10% degradation in battery. So I think that technology and battery life is exponentially expanding and elongating. And so there's that. But okay, the old batteries, what do you do with that? I know Nissan and I think Toyota have once the battery is dead, like it's not actually dead. You can take it and use it for other things. The power, like they take them and create cells to power houses or to power things out in the middle of nowhere. So I mean, but then once that life is done,
are you talking about me, middle of nowhere? Are you referencing me, middle of nowhere?
Nebraska, maybe.
Yeah,
They make it a generator.
I
But no, I mean, so the question is, what happens when that battery is dead?
Yeah. Well, so my point was too, so if my company, we have a fleet of about 12 vehicles, who pays to charge that at night? That's another factor. I know there's a lot of industry and construction, especially where the people take their vehicles home with them. They don't want them parking at their offices. And, I could have a charger out here, but then it's a whole nother hassle. Then the companies have to invest in that. They're investing even more and then into that employee to get some sort of fast charging for the vehicle. I want it to be there, but I don't know that I think it's still a hobbyist vehicle right now.
So here's something that's interesting today, and because we can't get off EVs for some reason, but I was discussing this with one of our colleagues online, as I normally do when I'm bored and picking a fight. There was a device that was being built for garages. So if you have 220 in your garage, you'd plug this in, and it basically takes your 220 plug and splits it in half. So if you want to charge your car up, you can charge your car up. You want to run the dryer, welder, whatever, you can run it. And so I said to the guy, I said, this is great, but people keep talking about dryer plugs. If you have a dryer plug in your house, you can charge your EV. Well, dryer plugs and dryers typically run on 30 amps. Okay. And most level 3, I guess we're at these days with EV chargers, are requiring 50 amps. And then Ford with the Lightning has a special deal where you put it in your house, supercharges super fast at 80 amps of power going to that plug.
Mhm.
So the reality of what that is if you don't understand how that electrical works, is that the higher amperage you go, the more expensive the wire is because you have to use a thicker wire.
Yeah.
And we have to get to that point, you have to have electrician. And I'm sorry, but if you have a dryer plug that puts out 30 amps, in my view of things, and the way I've seen the industry changing, I feel like 30 amps is going to be not even close to enough of these new EVs, especially when you get the damn Hummer where the battery weighs more than the Miata. I mean, for
Yeah.
crying out loud, you know. I mean, so it's like you have these tanks of EVs that are really heavy vehicles. 30 amps not enough.
Well,
I think
home construction's not ready for this either. So
Yeah.
what? 99% of the houses today would not be suitable for that.
Well, so like I'm gonna put a power plug in the house because I have to at some point because EVs are what we're doing, whatever. And so in my view, I want to put 80 amps in because I want to future proof it going in. My concern is whether or not I have enough power going into the house, Dave's point, to be able to support 80 amps. I sure as hell don't have the room in my breaker box. I'm going to do a separate breaker box, because I'm going to have to. And I don't know how many amps come in the house, but yeah, I mean, Cybertruck says 30 amps is plenty. I agree with that to a point.
Yeah, if you have like 24 hours to charge your vehicle.
Right. With a model, I'm going to say it differently. Let's say a Model 3, the small car, I could see 30 amps, 20, overnight charge, 30 amps, fine. But to Dave's point, to get consumers to go, I want 500 miles of range, or I want 600 miles of range, whatever. When we start adding that range equation, we're going to have, unless there's bigger batteries, right? And I know there's some down the road, there's going to be some breakthrough, right? So laptops used to weigh like a brick, right? Now they weigh nothing. But I know there's the whatever the law is, the more advanced you get, the smaller chips get, the smaller batteries get. I get that. But it's like, at what point do consumers go, I got to run 80 amps in the house? What's the conversation with consumers? Because that's like number 3 wire, number 4 wire. I think the number is, electricians can correct me. They correct me all day long on all sorts of stuff. And so I'm trying to figure out how this is all going to work out from that standpoint. I thought it was really interesting. The infrastructure talk, the bill that was passed, one of the big pieces of that bill, was it Build Back, whatever the hell the bill is that politicians talk about. We're going to spend billions, something like this. But I mean, one of the points of the bill was to upgrade the power lines throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's a huge deal.
It's a massive deal. Expensive.
That's a massive deal. So, I mean, and this is the thing, Ed. So, like, you're in California, and this comes up a lot. Like, rolling blackouts. Chicago, right? Chicago's thing too. This is a real thing.
We don't have those in
Chicago.
Chicago.
Don't have those, not anymore? Okay. So, I mean, it was going around. It was New York had them for AC during the summer.
We definitely got them. Yeah.
Tim's stuck in the 60s.
But I mean,
well, he is old and he likes his old man rants, so we're giving him the floor.
I'm fine with that. Anyways, so you have rolling black. There's so much concern, and I do agree with Cybertruck in this, that I think once your lifestyle matches the EV, and once you make your lifestyle match the EV, I think you are going to be an EV advocate. I've seen this happen time and time again. I have friends that put solar in their house and they charge their own EVs all the time. I think it's a fantastic solution. Fantastic. Now, they do rent a car when they try to leave town. I mean, they fly everywhere. I mean, I'm like, well, you're putting a lot of carbon out when you go flying across the country to get places. You could just drive. Anyways, I digress. But yeah, there's a lot to the conversation going on with that. But again, this is why our live stream turns into an EV conversation. Because
Tim, you should have Volkswagen ship that charger to you.
Oh, what? Not Volkswagen, the
them and Porsche. Get Volkswagen, Porsche, and Lamborghini to ship you something.
It can.
Actually, you need the Ford Lightning solar powered whatever thing that they came up with.
Yeah,
power your house. That's what you need.
Right. I mean, and they're like, and you read that press release a little bit closer, and you're like, oh, we're gonna do it in your house. You have this one-touch solution, that kind of stuff. Oh, that's some coin. That's some coin, because the Lightning is already bait and switch, as Jill and I found out. So, do you guys know the backstory on this? So, I did what happened? Jill wrote a story on the pricing with the F50 Lightning, right? And I went to do a video, or we're talking about a video. We were talking a live stream, weren't we? Talking a live stream. I said, no, it's this. And Jill's an editor, right? She's got to be like, no, Tim, it's like this, right? Yes, Al Boylan kind of conversation going on. I don't think so, Tim. All right. So, anyways, tour guy stuff. Anyway, so she goes correct me, and then we go back online, and she's emailing back and forth. And it turns out they had bait and switched the price, in my opinion. And I mean, you got people with reservations now on the Lightning that are having to pay thousands more.
Like 10,000 more.
Right, because
the fleet price is one thing for the extended range battery, which was what I was reporting on, but the actual consumer price is $10,000 more than that. And I went back and forth with the EV person at Ford because I was just like, is this right or is this right? And she was like, oh, well, this is for fleet sales, and then this is for, and I was just like,
Right. So not only are, I mean, this is my overarching thing when I talk to consumers. Not only are EVs complicated to buy, and I want to say this carefully in that there's a lot of conversation they have to go through, pen and paper. You have to figure out how to fit the lifestyle. We're going to charge it. There's a lot more going on, right? So if I'm going to go buy a Silverado EV. I have a Silverado E truck on deposit apparently that will show up in 20 never, and I'll eventually get that truck, right? But it's $1,000. I talked to my electrician. It's $1,000 before I get that truck. So I'm going to spend $60,000, $70,000, probably $70,000, $1,000 before I bring it home. Now, granted, I own my house. That's one and done. Like in Jill's circumstance, she does her garage, but she rents her place. She doesn't do it every time. That's going to suck, right? So I got that conversation in my head. I got this tax credit that at that time, would Chevy actually GM have a tax credit? Probably not, because I think they hit their max. They did, right? So,
but I think part of the infrastructure bill is to add that back in,
right? And then all the argument going up. So I'm like, I may get a tax credit, may not get a tax credit, right? So there's a conversation going on there. I have conversations about range. I have conversations with range when towing, and I'm sorry, I really like that Chevy Silverado chief engineer, but she was flat out wrong. I'm going to see more than 50% drop in towing with an EV. I'm sorry. I've seen videos with the Rivian that TFL did, and that thing.
The Chevy is not the Rivian.
I know, but I'm going to give them benefit of doubt, but I'm sorry. But
we need to like mark this down, and when you get it, because you will eventually get it.
The stuff I say, the problem is I say stuff on live stream and she like writes it down,
and then I remember it.
I know she puts it on. Son of a.
And then I do a video about it.
I know, and I'm like, what the hell did I say that night? All right, I have more work to do. What's going on? So I mean, there's a lot.
Exactly.
So I mean, there's a lot of conversations going on. So that's what my issue is. There's all this talk about doing it when I can just go to my local Chevy store and buy a truck and drive it off the lot. I know what I'm getting.
There's everything you're saying, Tim, is true, and what it does point to is the early adopters of anything are not your usual normal mainstream consumers. The early
Cybertruck, he's calling you weird. All right, move along.
The initial customers of the Silverado EV, the initial customers of Ford Lightning, these are going to be people who are not your typical mainstream truck customers. These are more early adopter, in some cases bleeding edge consumers that are really excited about having the latest thing. Oh, look at that! It finally happened.
Tim's a sucker for the like button.
Ooh, we get 2 like buttons. We're gonna get 2 on you folks. All right. Sorry, Ed. This is all we play. This is such an informal live stream. I should have prepped you. We drink, we talk.
I prepped him. Believe me.
I'm drinking. I mean,
right,
I'm drinking. No, but where I was going with this was simply that the initial customers of these vehicles, they're going to be the sort of people for whom price isn't really an issue. They're going to be happy to pay the $1,000 to get the electrical upgrade in their homes to support the charging of these vehicles. They're putting their deposits down, not knowing whether there's going to be a tax credit on it or not. These are substantial tax credits, so whether or not there's a tax credit drastically affects what the price of the vehicle is going to be. And the people who are putting the deposits down don't really care. So, I guess we've seen this time and time again, where, some fancy newfangled thing comes out and it's, basically affluent early adopters that are the first customers of it, and then eventually it sort of trickles down to more mainstream consumers. But yeah, I mean, for the mainstream truck consumer, these electric trucks probably aren't going to make a whole lot of sense at first. It's going to take some years before before they become truly relevant, to the mainstream truck consumer. But it's not going to be for some time.
I had somebody tell me this once, and I thought it was kind of spot on. They said that Tesla's biggest problem is that all the bleeps in California already own one. And that's their biggest. They're trying to get the people that don't have that. They're not affluent to be able to buy them and keep the momentum going.
Well, so I'm sitting here listening to y'all and I'm thinking, okay, I remember the DVD player came out like late 90s, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cool new technology, but it's obsolete now. Are we going to get this way because that's how tech does, and tech seems to be going faster and faster. Tesla wants you to rent their cars and that's it. They want you to push a button, it shows up, you use it, and it goes away.
Yeah, Dave, yes, simply put, yes. I mean, Jill, you mentioned, just how much battery technology has come in the past 10 years. Well, think about 10 years from today. 10 years from today, it's pretty likely that we'll have solid state batteries in the marketplace by then. A solid state battery has numerous advantages over a traditional lithium ion battery that we have now. I mean, it's going to be lighter. It'll charge lightning fast. Potentially, I mean, it can potentially, a solid state battery can be fully charged in the same time that it would take to fill your tank with gas. And once we get to that point, I mean, then it becomes a lot more realistic for a mainstream consumer to go electric. But right now with the technology that we currently have, which is lithium ion, there are some major behavioral changes that a consumer has to undertake in order to drive an EV. I mean, they have to change the way they think about, rather than gassing up their vehicle, they've got to charge it, and they've got to allow for the time to do that. And, there's all kinds of habitual changes that they have to make. And, let's face it, the mainstream consumer just wants to get in the car and go. They're not thinking about, all right, doing all these equations in their heads and, wanting to figure out, how their charging behavior is going to be relative to gas. No, they just want to get in the car and go about their business. So
I'm shocked because, wait. Isn't that what cars are meant for? Just getting in and going?
Get in and go about your business.
Mind blown. Oh my God. Right?
Well, they are status things too, though.
Well, they are. But so this is the question I had with my stepmom. And my dad and my dad's an old GM engineer kind of guy. So we're talking about this quite a bit. But for all three of you, are cars becoming throwaway appliances like you would a DVD player or a refrigerator or a microwave?
In some ways, I'm going to say yes and no. In some ways, yes, in the sense that, I mean, we have seen, over the last 10 years, leasing has gone up a lot. There are a lot more people who lease now compared to 10 years ago. So there is a significant portion of the marketplace that just kind of gets in this endless cycle of I'll drive something for 3 years, it's gone, get the next thing, drive for 3 years, it's gone. Even though, which is kind of funny because right now, I would argue that cars and trucks are more durable and long lasting than they've ever been. Your average 10-year-old vehicle on the road probably has zero issues with it. I mean, it's going to be perfectly reliable and, not give you any kind of trouble. Yet at the same time, yes, we're also we've also gotten into a cycle where more and more people lease, and therefore they are, disposing of their vehicles a lot more often than they used to.
All right, Dave. Jill?
I would like to say no. I mean, my husband and I buy used, and pretty soon we're going to be buying very used because Jonathan does not want anything other than a manual transmission vehicle, and we all know where those are going.
Jill will be at 10 speed soon.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah. So I'd like to say no. But to Ed's point, more people are leasing, which to me is shocking. Whenever anybody asks me the lease versus buy question, I'm just like, do you want to be in debt for the rest of your life or not? Because that's a lease versus buy question for me. If you would like to be in debt for your life, the rest of your life, by all means, keep leasing because you will never own anything. But that's just me and my philosophy on finances.
Well, Jill, no, I agree with that. But if you look at outside of automotive, we've all kind of gotten into this mindset of subscribing to things. No one goes and buys.
I hate the subscriptions.
Yeah, well, but nobody goes and buys DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. No, we subscribe to Netflix. We pay our $10 a month to Netflix. We pay our money to Prime. We pay our money to Hulu, and we subscribe to all these things now. And increasing that subscription model is like spreading out to everything. So I guess in that
remote start.
yeah. Subscriptions for remote start and heated seats, for crying out loud, which makes me want to throw up a little. But I digress. The fact that the idea of subscribing to things has just become so commonplace. Well, what really is a lease? A lease is really, it's a subscription. I mean, you're subscribing to the use of a car for 3 years, and whether it makes financial sense or not. And you're right, Jill, usually it does not. The fact of the matter is that the consumer is being increasingly conditioned to feel that, you don't need to own things. You just pay a fee every month, and then you have access to whatever it is that you want. So,
well, lease only makes sense if you buy German, and then you want it for 3 years, and then you want nothing to do with it.
Dave, I don't disagree.
Ask me how I know.
I want to be that guy though, because I lease my wife's vehicles.
Oh. So you want to be a the rest of your life is what I'm hearing you say.
Well, let me hold on.
He's got the old trusty out there, Joe.
Where's the mute button? And mute all your asses. Hold on. Let me get the wait. No, but I mean, there's a different aspect to this. Is that I believe that I guess in my case, the middle class is being split, and we now have an upper middle class and a lower middle class. And in our case, we do pretty well in Nebraska, and so. She had a 14-year-old Honda CR-V that was having some problems because it was 14 years old. I was in an airport in Dallas, and she called me, and her car was having problems. I have 2 young kids at home, and I'm in Dallas.
Right.
My stress level was, rather high.
Sure.
I might have had a drink at the bar to calm down. And so when I got back, I said, we need to get a new car because it was 14 years old. It's time for something new. And we had pinched our pennies. We'd been in college kids. We'd, saving our money, and we'd paid things off and done stuff. Mm-hmm. And when we looked at the lease payments she got a Mazda CX-5, the lease payment was $100 to $200 less a month than buying it. And in our particular case, the boys were at that time were 8 and 10. And I figured by the time they get in with the lease, they'd be going on 13 and 11. So they'd be taller, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, at that point, we need a new vehicle anyways, because we need more room, right? Yeah. So I could have bought a Tahoe at that time. And then let me keep going because the whole thing makes sense. But
what's your show, Tim?
Yeah, it's my show. You're on mute. Anyways, so I figured by the time that the Mazda lease came up, we would get a bigger vehicle, and then the time that bigger vehicle, like say the Tahoe lease got up, my oldest would be 16, 17, have their own car. Riding with parents, not really cool. I'm gonna drive myself, right? And so we'd probably go smaller, and then in 3 years after that, we'd go even smaller because my youngest one would have his license. He'd be out of the house. So we were gonna go from having kids who were teenagers to empty nesters at that point. And I was like, well, we're going to have to go through at least 3 different car purchases in those next few years. Or I buy the big Tahoe now, and in 8 years we pay it off, 5 years, whatever the loan agreement is going to be. And so I was like, I said, why not lease something? Because in 3 leases, basically I'll have a truck for work because the business will pay for the truck. And then she'll could retire, could not retire. She could decide what she wants to do. At that point, we'd probably be down to 1 vehicle household. And so I knew there was a lot of changes coming on the horizon.
Mhm.
Yes, put on Dave Ramsey book. But I knew there was a lot
I
of
was waiting for
changes.
that.
I knew there was, in my
Where's your
view,
envelopes,
I
Jill?
knew 2 things. There was a lot of changes on the horizon coming from vehicle needs. And I also knew that I was traveling quite a bit. And for me, it was peace of mind. I don't want to look, it's easy money for me to pay the lease each month because I could be in California, New York, Chicago, wherever, and I don't worry about car problems when I'm on the road. And so, from a lifestyle viewpoint of a stress level, it's a lot less stressful for me to have her in a leased vehicle. Now, her Mazda CX-5 lease is up this year, and it's been a great vehicle. But thanks to COVID, she didn't drive worth a damn. So we're way in a good spot with the lease, I should say. And so I actually bought her a Ford Maverick, and that's because the business changed. So in that 3 years time period, I hired this 5-foot purple hair wearing hat person in Chicago, and things kind of exploded. And so things changed dramatically. So if I would have bought a Tahoe at that time, it wouldn't be a business purchase. It couldn't be anything different. So now the Maverick is going to be a business purchase because we can do reviews on the channel and we can do it makes sense to IRS. So that's the thing with me. It's like I was at that point in my life where I knew a lot of changes were coming up, and I didn't want to be locked into a vehicle because when you purchase a vehicle, unless you're buying used or putting a bunch of cash down, you are always upside down immediately getting a loan. And I didn't want to be upside down. I wanted to have some be able to move stuff around, do some changes if I needed to. If the business went completely under, we just sold the lease. We just moved along, right? If the business exploded like it did, then I buy something different. If the kids get bigger, I mean, there's so many changes coming. I just was like, you know what? I don't want to get involved in a 7-year loan on something and be upside down for 3 years and make decisions. Now, I have seen studies done where the average consumer now owns a sedan for 3 years and they own a pickup for 5 years. I've seen those there's been many studies on this. And so I'm like, well, and I was talking to my cousins about this. I said they were young and they were going through vehicles a lot, right? And so I was like, why don't you just lease a vehicle? Oh, I can't. That's renting a car, whatever. I said, when's the last time, when did you buy? And they said, we just bought a new truck. I said, okay, well, what'd you have before that? Well, we had a car. I said, how long you have the car? Oh, about 2 years. What'd you have before that? Oh, we had a car. How long you have that? Oh, about 1.5 years. And I'm like, well, you're going through cars anyways. So I know, but I have a different viewpoint. I don't have the Dave Ramsey viewpoint on things.
You don't.
For me, it wasn't about a financial decision. It was about a lifestyle decision and about stress level.
No, and I will say there are a few people that it does make sense that they should lease. Before I got married, I dated a guy who bought a new car like every year, and he was so far underwater on his loans. I'm like, what in the hell are you doing? You are the person who should be leasing because you're buying a car, then you're trading it in, you're buying a new car, but you didn't pay off the other car. So you're rolling your loan over into this other. For somebody like that, leasing makes sense because, they're not going to go into debt by cycling out of new cars every 2 years. Because let's face it, the reason why I buy used is because as soon as you buy a car and you drive it off the lot, it depreciates like $10,000.
I've got a Jeep, or I got a Bronco. It's not depreciating right now, Jill.
Well,
the market. No, I will say, I mean, Last Star Foster says leasing is a good way to be broke the rest of your life. Leasing is not for everybody. I'm not trying to advocate leasing is better than buying. I'm not trying to say it at all. But in my particular circumstance, it's what made sense to us at that moment.
Tim, I'm to your point. I'm certain. My critique of leasing is not to say that leasing is bad for everybody. There are absolutely use cases for leasing where it actually does make sense. In your case, what you explained, absolutely makes sense. Also for for many businesses, leasing makes sense. With all the write-offs that you can do with it. So I mean, I'm not trying to say that leasing is, a blanket statement that leasing is bad for everybody, but, for
no, you're right. I mean, I'm not, putting against the wall. I'm not holding your comment. I mean, it is a weird situation. I remember reading a story where leasing had increased in full-size pickups because the higher trim trucks, like the Platinum and stuff like that, the Empathy Platinum, were being put in garages with BMWs, Mercedes, and that luxury buyer was already well in tune with leasing. And so they were already like, well, I want to lease it anyways because, and it sounds smug, but I view car ownership as a line item on the budget. Whether I have an old car or a new car, I'm going to end up paying for maintenance, end up paying for payment, and I'm sorry, used cars. The older you get the used cars, I know they're paid off, but there are maintenance issues. There are things come up that, you do have a budget item for vehicles. And in my case,
report on this, Tim.
My daily driver is a 4-year-old car, so I know.
Right. I mean,
14-year-old car.
40.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I actually just picked it up from the shop this afternoon. So
yeah. People always they're like, man, you're at 62 is so awesome. You can sit in the hood and work on it. I'm like, yeah, because you're always working on it.
So by the way, speaking of your 62,
yes.
How's that transmission thing going?
I don't have an update for you. It's still in the shop.
Because you're killing it.
I am not killing it. I'm making
it
future-proof. So
you're converting it to hybrid, huh?
No, I'm not. Ed, I have a 62 Chevy C10 we call Swede. Yeah. And Swede is getting an automatic transmission.
He's killing it.
Right. Jill.
Now, Tim, and why are you doing this?
For 2 reasons. Number 1, my left knee doesn't work like it used to. And so when I want to drive it, I counted up, it's 13 shifts to go 1.5 miles down my road because of stop signs, uphill, whatever. Okay. And so for me to go that's the golf course. So me to go to the golf course is 13 shifts to get to the golf course. It's 26 shifts.
And that's how the relationship goes from Tim to the golf course.
So that's, that's a big factor. But the other thing too is I want to drive it. I just want to drive it. I just don't want to, I can drive a manual transmission. I have no problem with it. It's fun to drive, but it's a 4 on the floor, which basically means I have 3 gears. I don't have an overdrive. And so I have never done fuel economy challenge with it, but I'm going to guess it gets 6 miles a gallon downhill, stiff breeze on neutral, right? And so I want the overdrive, and to do the overdrive, you have to get the automatic transmission to get that overdrive gear. And so I have some, and then I have, I don't have a parking brake that works with it. So for me to get up there's a slight hill getting out of my neighborhood. And yeah, it's riding the clutch, riding the brake, riding the clutch, riding the brake. So there's some definitely challenges. So I'm getting power steering, I'm getting power brakes, and I'm getting automatic in it. I'm going to do that complete engine overhaul. So, but it's a very, very popular conversion that happens. And they did sell it.
Cybertruck says you should turn it into an EV. That would be the better conversion.
Well, again, I would go back to my statement. Cybertruck, you need to do something for me. And everybody needs to do this. On this channel, if you look on this channel, I rode in, a guy has I want to say it's a 56 Chevy truck that he put on a Prius chassis. And it was the most loud experience I've ever been in my life. People don't understand this. So I rode shotgun and hydrogen fuel cell semi, right? With Toyota's hydrogen fuel cell semi in California. And they took a Kenworth and put basically 2 Mirais in this fuel cell. I was in the port and driving around with this guy in the port of Los Angeles. And it was, Toyota came to me and they said, look, the engineering was like, it was really loud when we first did the conversion. People are like, well, that's dumb. It's EV. It's going to be super quiet. I'm like, hold on. Kenworth build quality was built for the diesel to hide the creaking from the body. You take up the diesel, all you hear is the creaking of the body panels, right? Because the NVH, the noise, vibration, harshness of the body panels, was built to, who cares? It's a semi truck.
Yeah,
you hear the diesel anyways, right? Well, when Toto did the transitions, they actually had to go through and do stuff to the body like those washers that are the foam washers and stuff, to
Uh-huh.
cut down on the creaking, so it didn't sound so bad in the cabin. and this guy, if Cybertruck do this, go look on the channel. There is the 52. They call it. It's a Cheviota Priuc is what we called it, right? Truck tried and ran the story. It was a funny story in Cincinnati. This guy's actually a preacher in Cincinnati, great guy, and the truck is really loud. Like the people do these. People keep talking about stuff all the time. They're like, "Oh, you need to take these old classic cars and make them EVs and be fantastic." It's really loud. It's on. I mean, driving around, like if you go to a car show, right, and you drive 5 miles to the parking spot, it's really quiet. But you get on the highway, and those vehicles weren't built to today's standards, and EVs are built to a standard to be quiet.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole different animal. So I don't do. I won't go Swede with an EV because of that aspect being too loud. It'd take a lot of work to get them quiet, but also because I enjoy the sound of a V8. And with the firewall in Swede is about that thick, so you hear the V8 no matter what you do. And I put dual exhaust back there, so you hear it. And so there's no way that truck's gonna be quiet in any stretch of imagination.
Well, and my 40-year-old daily driver is a diesel, and the diesel is such an essential part of that car's character. I can't imagine that car not clattering away. That's what kind of gives the thing its soul. It's for the record, it's an '83 Mercedes 300D. To take the diesel out of it would be sacrilege. I mean, it's one of the most durable, strong diesels like ever made. It's indestructible. That's part of the character of the car. That's kind of what makes it so cool, I think. So
Jill found the link, so the link is there. You can watch that video. It's funny. But yeah, I agree. I mean, people tell me all the time about taking EV with Swede, and I'm like, I can't do it. I understand that I'm taking, part of Jill's heart with the manual transmission. I get that. I get it. I see, yes, the images on the screen of Jill taking her heart, but I'm going to keep the V8 in there. I am going to add power steering, power brakes, because frankly, I want the kids to drive it too. And without power, and I did not, apparently I didn't know that power brakes were a thing until I got Swede. So when I stop sign, like down the road, I start planning now to stop at the stop sign. Right?
Sounds like my 64 Bug, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, and so your brakes are your feet, and
then have people pull out in front of you.
Oh, yeah, it's like I'm like I have a steel bumper on the front of that thing, and I get better insurance than you do, buddy. You pull out in front of me, I'm just gonna smack you because there's no stopping this truck. He doesn't stop. He doesn't. It doesn't happen. And so I'm doing the upgrades that allow me to drive the truck longer period of my life and allow the kids to drive it. That's what I'm doing. That's the reason behind it. And okay. I want to go through and make sure that it's going to be safe for them to drive it. But people make fun of me all the time about this stuff, but I'm sorry, but I need to make sure I go through the wiring too. Copper wiring does problems over the years. Things have wiring is a big issue. I mean, you have a diesel, Ed. I mean, the engine's fine, right? But wiring, headlights all of a sudden don't work, or all of a sudden the turn signal doesn't work, or the wiring is the biggest issue.
No, old electrical stuff can be a challenge. I mean, I certainly have more than definitely a few electrical gremlins in mind. Just due to the fact that this is almost 40-year-old copper wiring, that's degraded over time, and it does weird things like when I start the car, the wipers will sweep once.
Right.
Just weird stuff like that.
That's been my argument with EVs. Is that's why I say throw away appliances, because I want to say this very clearly. I'm not worried about the battery. People want me to make a big deal about battery. Battery costs can be expensive. It's going to be expensive to replace battery. I'm not worried about battery. I'm not worried about tires. I'm not worried about brakes. I'm worried about all the additional copper wiring in vehicles. I was at a GM proving grounds in New Tahoe, and they laid out how much copper wiring was in their vehicle, and they had a huge thing. Like, look at all this cool wiring and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And the guy's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look at all the stuff that's in fail. I'm like, that's rats get in there, ages out, it breaks at the connector level. I'm like, that's a nightmare. And the guy's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, oh my god. Like I got to say this publicly in the engineers at automakers are young and excited, and they're stupid. that's my old man coming out. They just these engineers that design stuff, I just want to strangle their necks because it's just they're just not thinking. They're thinking about how cool it is.
Well,
and
now
I'm sorry,
the wire Tim is
old man, dude.
I am.
That wire Tim is now done by vegetable oil or something like
They're
that.
trying different stuff. Yeah, they keep trying
squirrels and stuff.
Soy, they do like a soy spray on there too. I mean, automakers trying to figure stuff out. But I'm sorry, I've been in barns with barn finds and rats and stuff. Rats don't give a what's going on. They're gonna, if it's food, it's food.
But they're finding that wiring, the coating they're doing on it is actually attracting animals to want to chew on it.
Yes, and they're chewing on it, and that's become a real problem lately, actually.
I think it's become more and more a problem, right? So I mean, you're gonna have this thing that's attracting the animals, and now you have more EVs. It's like I don't care about the batteries. I really don't care about batteries and EVs at all. It's going to be what it's going to be, and it's going to be like replacing an engine, right? So people said to me when I got Swede in the shop, they're like, it's so funny. This just cracked me up. I have EV advocate friends, and I don't know why they're still friends with me, but they are. And they get me online. They're EV advocates, right? And then I went to take Swede in the shop to get the engine. The engine can overhaul. I make sure that the what am I trying to say? It's in good shape. I want to make sure it's in good shape, right? And they were like, well, you just need to do a LS3 engine in it. I was like, you just told me that I should buy a Tesla. like, wait a minute here. Like, how do you advocate I should put a Corvette engine in this thing when you said I should buy a Tesla? I'm like, I'm so confused by this. I'm just lost. But yeah, I just, so he's gonna get it's all the seals. The seals need to be redone. The engine sat on the floor of the engine shop for 30 years. I just swapped it in. Didn't do any work to it. So it needs its time. It's definitely time. But speaking of that, I think it's time to end the live stream.
Speaking of time.
Yeah, my apple juice is empty, and I need to definitely refill that. And I know Jill has her 3-drink set up there.
Yeah, I'm partially through my water. Made it really good headway.
Yeah,
and the wine.
And Ed, how are we doing? Did you finish the beer? Or did you still working on it?
I'm still working on it.
He's doing good. So it's about time. So AutoPacifica.
Yeah, Tim, who said this was only going to be an hour tonight?
I try so hard. My wife is like, it's an hour, right? Last time went like 2 hours. I'm like, I'm trying, damn it. Live streams get more entertaining. I get I get all the time. Like here on the channel, I'm going to tell you right now. On the channel, go in the comments. You'll see 2 things. Number 1, I talk too much, and number 2, this situation with the hands going on is Jill over there, right? So Jill can't do a video without like doing her Italian coming out, right?
Yeah, the old joke. How do you shut up in Italian?
Yeah, you grab her hands. You know why Jill always looks kind of cool in her videos, like she's not really hot? Because she's constantly fanning herself with her hands. That's what's going on there. That's. I
was going to say it's because I just shaved.
No,
what was that motion?
I shaved earlier too, by the way. Anyway, so I mean, those are 2 things. So I blather too much, and I really am trying to cut down these live streams. But gosh darn it, I got a lot of things to say.
Clearly, you have a lot to say.
I do. I don't know. I tried to hold back, and then I get on Facebook and I get fired up, and that's what happens. All right, so we will put a link in the show notes for Ed's outlet and his business. And Dave, as always, with All Train Nation. By the way, Dave's got a really hot video going on his channel right now about a Bronco, because he loves to pick on Ford's ordering system and how jacked up that is. Jesus Christ, me. You want a disaster, go try to buy a new Ford Bronco. Good luck. Yeah.
Buy anything Ford right now. Order anything Ford.
Just a nightmare. I mean, anyways, I digress on that. So there you go. That's a live stream. We will be in, let's see, we have a live stream next week, Jill. We'll find some new guests. And then the week after, Jill and I will be in person. By the way, I guess an email. Bilstein's not an option for us anymore. They're sending their trucks to Eagle Jeep, or the Easter Jeep Safari. So we will probably be live in Hotel Bar in Thursday in Indianapolis.
Yeah, cool.
Or
from my parents' house.
At her parents' house. Which I got to tell you, Jill, I'm a little bit cautious about going to your parents' house on Wednesday morning to pick you up and be like, is your daughter here?
They've met you before though, and they like you, so it's all good.
Yeah, that makes it easier for me. Yeah, fantastic. I'm gonna go pick up Jill from her parents' house. That's
a video in itself, Tim.
That should be a video.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of videos we should
bring a corsage though.
I prefer Frisia.
We have so if you guys don't know that I'm gonna pick up Jill in Chicago with the new Tundra she hates and drive. We have some stuff to do in Michigan, and we're driving down to Indianapolis. And I gotta tell you what, I have these thoughts that we will be live from the road as we argue about the radio stations and Jill's all the stuff she's doing in the car. So lots of fun stuff coming up as always. Thanks Ed for being on. Thanks Dave for being on. Thanks Joe for being on. As always, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you down the road.
All right. Cheers.